of the Biff Miller Show. Today we have a very special guest, Josh Joe Boss.
And I'm Corion.
That's Corion.
Hi.
And I'm Biff. And yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's.
Last time, we experienced some technical difficulties.
What do you mean technical?
There was a lot of technical difficulties. Sam is working on it. I think some people were confused.
Oh, you mean Aubrey? Oh, he did good though, right?
No, I don't think he did. Aubrey was a big problem because Aubrey was my friend who I brought in. He hosted the Christmas. We'll talk about it later. Anyway, Josh, and we will talk about it because I think the audience wants to know. But anyway, tell us about. He's here. He's a money expert. He does Forex. He does Bitcoin. He does sociology, Scientology, all of it.
Scientology.
So, he knows all about every number. So tell people you're walking up to an old man. He knows nothing about Bitcoin. Tell him about Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Bitcoin is amazing. I can't wait to learn.
Yeah, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Why is it so expensive? Like, how is it more expensive than the American dollar? What the world? Doesn't make sense.
Different measurements. No, what gives Bitcoin its value goes back to supply and demand. Now, not in like the typical way you hear most people on Twitter describe it. You know, it's not like, just a lot of people want Bitcoin and there's so few of it. It was very pre-planned out why Bitcoin has this demand. So I got into Bitcoin back in like late 2012. I've been trading it for a long time. And when I first got introduced to it, you know what? I was running a 300-man online gaming community, and we were all like teenagers. And we were trying to figure out a way to get funds because all these teenagers, they had these
They're
beefy...
broke.
Yeah, they're broke. They're dirt broke.
I traded you waters because you're a trader. You like trading. You trade. Should I trade him back? I'll trade him back.
That was...
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were talking about Bitcoin and how you got into it.
So, with that community, what I ended up needing to do was find a way to raise money. So, I was thinking like, okay, get donations, whatever. But I wasn't getting a whole lot. So, my brother, who's a cypherpunk...
What's a cypherpunk? What?
Well, first let me explain how I got into it.
Okay.
Well, he went ahead and brought me into the living room, and he's like, here, you need to see this. And he went online with his Linux laptop on a Tor browser to Silk Road and bought like LSD or something with Bitcoin.
So you went on the dark web?
No, he did. Market. He did a transaction on it a long, long time ago. And I was like, well, what is it you really want to show me that you can buy this? I was like, no, Bitcoin. And so he just pointed me in the right direction, and I went out and I looked at the bitcoin.wiki site to kind of really get a gist of it. I couldn't understand the white paper. And in it, there's this page called supply circulation, and there's this little graph in there.
Go ahead.
And what the graph shows is the Bitcoin supply curve is logarithmic. It gets exponentially closer and closer and closer to an asymptote. 21 million Bitcoin supply.
Asymptote.
Yeah, it's the limit. It's a limit of how much Bitcoin can be made.
So like a weapon, like my asymptote.
I like the first part of it. It sounds like ass.
Yeah, it does. So Bitcoin's supply is a logarithmic curve. And the way you get the curve is through the halvings. That's why the halvings exist, right? And the difficulties and whatnot. That's all the technical stuff. But it's really a lot simpler to understand. Remember supply and demand? That's how we kicked this off. Well, in economics, demand is the inverse of supply. So if the supply of Bitcoin is a logarithmic curve, the demand of Bitcoin is theoretically an exponential because you just take the inverse of a logarithm. It becomes an exponent. So the demand is theoretically exponential. Now, when you look at a chart of Bitcoin, it doesn't look like an exponential function at all. But when you look at these run-ups, it moves exponentially. And when you look at Bitcoin on a logarithmic chart, it moves in the pattern of its supply. And so you can see, literally, it's like a supply and demand chart of what Bitcoin's price would do if the supply, a logarithmic supply, met an exponential demand.
You are so smart. You're so smart. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Honestly. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to tell you.
But just let him.
So, you know, you can get into the mining, you can get into land, labor, capital, you can get into, you know, the cryptography of it, but the cryptography and the encryption and the network and the nodes and the decentralized aspect of it is simply to facilitate this supply and to simply help make sure that the demand is assured and safe in buying into that supply. Because if Bitcoin had a serious problem and it went down to zero, all demand goes down to zero, price goes down to nothing.
Exactly.
So the reason why you have all these other things like the cryptography, it supports that logarithmic supply function, and that keeps the exponential demand up. So it might be more than, you know, an economics 1 or 2 course, but that is, you know, I didn't understand logarithms at the time when I was actually learning that. But when I saw that, I'm like, oh, supply inverse of demand. If you flip that around, oh my God, that's a huge thing. And that got me on the board really, really, really early. Like when Bitcoin was 250, right? So,
when was Bitcoin 250?
Back in 14.
And okay, so I always hear that Bitcoin, it gets high and then it drops really low. That's really scary. Why would I put my money there if it's gonna go like high and then low? Like I'm gonna lose all my money.
Well, depends where you buy. Depends where you buy. So, you know.
Depends when you buy, depends where you buy.
Both.
Where do you buy Bitcoin? CoinDesk.
You forgot your mask. Where is that?
I don't know.